utställning öppnas avsnittligt. Jag utbringar ett fyrfaldigt leve för Hans Majestät Konungen. Leve Konungen! Hurra! 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 Hurra!
The 3rd of July 1930, a pigeon landed at the Stockholm exhibition. Perhaps it lined up for a cigar at the tobacco monopoly's kiosk. Or bought a chocolate gift for his friends at the Mazzetti shop late at night. Big things were happening. Sweden was about to present itself as a modern and progressive country. Chief architect Gunnar Asplund worked himself to bad health to get everything ready for the opening. King Gustav V, also known as the Tennis King, held the opening speech. It was the age of modernity, effectivity and technology, and the exhibition was a celebration of collective life. Meanwhile, in another part of town, the tame racing pigeon from earlier returned to the Asplund twins, Piss E and Bippen, the younger and more subversive siblings of Gunnar, who dreamed up their own version of the exhibition. Containing human bumblebee symbionts, giant squids, and large fungi-shaped buildings. After a short but intense summer, the exhibition was dismantled. On the whole, it was a successful event.
Deuxième partie.
10 years later, Gunnar Asplund's other large ongoing project, at the Woodland Cemetery, the Chapel of the Holy Cross and its surrounding buildings, were finally completed. After the official inauguration that involved a ribbon cutting, a large party was thrown by the new underground masterminds of Stockholm's nightlife, the Asplund twins, Piss E and Bippen. Of course, the Tennis King was there to shake his royal hips. Sadly, Gunnar Asplund, more or less, worked himself to death, and passed away the same year as the inauguration. Soon after, Asplund's scholars found striking resemblances between Asplund's site plans for the Stockholm 1930 exhibition and the Woodland Cemetery. They overlaid the site plans to scale and found a similar movement pattern, relation to landscape, and grouping of buildings. The corso of the exhibition fitted neatly between the two paths up to the Chapel of the Holy Cross, and the promenade stopped at respective main building. More similarities were to be found. It was as if Asplund held a dialogue between the two plans and left small messages. For example, the granite cross of the cemetery was erected at exactly the same spot as the hot dog stand was located on the exhibition site plan. Maybe it was Asplund, the agnostic, leaving his mark. The Woodland Cemetery and the 1930 exhibition have in common that they deal with symbol and relationship to landscape, and they both focus on collective life in different ways.
Partie 3.
Lotte and Lenny, two exchange students from the architecture school in Wuppertal, Germany, took the Schwebebahn to the airport and arrived in Stockholm 2 hours later. They came up north for their joint thesis project, and the next morning they met up outside the cemetery gates. Sharing a menthol chocolate cigarette, they sat in the frozen grass beside the grave of Greta Garbo and outlined the project. Inspired by John Hayduck's competition proposal, called Victims, for a bombed-out site in Berlin that had earlier been a Gestapo headquarters. It was a collection of narrative-driven civic structures that stood in dialogue with the former condition of the site. And also inspired by writer and theorist Donna Haraway's books and a film about her called Storytelling for Earthly Survival, who sees storytelling as an essential tool for survival, both for humans and for the planet. Lotte and Lenny decided that their project should focus on storytelling. They dug up the work by the old Asplund scholars and the overlaid site plans. They could use the Stockholm exhibition and the Woodland Cemetery to think with. Almost any theme could be found in those two projects. Modernity, capitalism, religion, etc. The Woodland Cemetery was part of a materialized archive of the Stockholm exhibition. Parts of the ideas of the exhibition were to be found at the Woodland. And they should work with that archive. The Woodland Cemetery would be the site for their project, used as a backdrop. It would be a fictional project. They wouldn't propose any demolitions. It was almost 100 years since the Stockholm 1930 exhibition. What stories could be found worth exploring?
Quatrième partie, la proposition.
Late May, when the dandelions scattered their fluffy seeds in the wind, Lottie and Lenny met up outside of KTH. They went through their project from beginning to end. First they had 9 structures, that was placed on the Woodland Cemetery map. Then they had a site plan, where the Stockholm exhibition was layered on top of the woodland. The Woodland Cemetery is located on the Stockholm Esker, the same that can be seen at the Observatory Hill next to the Stockholm Public Library. Before it became a cemetery, the land where the Woodland Cemetery is located was a site of extraction, a gravel and sand quarry. Eskers tells the history of the Ice Age glaciers that shaped this landscape long ago, and that will shape it again. The idea with the proposed structure is to remind of the former esker that ran through the main entrance and the soil layers that constitutes this place. The things, plants and beings, that live on the Woodland Cemetery lives from this soil composition. The structure consists of 5 diamond-shaped rooms. The one in the middle is for passing through and the 4 surrounding rooms each present a different soil layer, in a sort of sandbox that you can interact with and directly experience. Instead of looking to the stars, this observatory looks to the ground at what is beneath our feet. Fungi comprise one of life's kingdoms, a category as broad as plants and animals. 90% of all trees and plants on land are dependent on fungi's mycelial networks underground. Mycelium is the branching network of tubular cells below ground, and the mushroom is just the fruiting body that shoots out spores. Life on land as we know it wouldn't exist without these networks. There would be no plants or trees to photosynthesize, and there would be no atmosphere or oxygen to breathe. No wood on the woodland. Without fungi we wouldn't exist. The structure is shaped like a labyrinth, inspired by how mycelium explore their surroundings underground. It is located on a place where it tangents the observatory of the exhibition, and acts as an entrance to the walled-in part of the cemetery that leads up to the Chapel of the Holy Cross. It is meant to function as an observatory, exhibition space, and workshop. The deep biosphere is a network of ecosystems that exist within the Earth's crust, far below the surface of the planet. Scientists estimate that the amount of life in the deep biosphere is enormous, with a biomass that is 1.5 times larger than our oceans combined, and several hundred times larger than the biomass of the amount of life on the surface. The life down there consists largely of microorganisms such as bacteria, and fungi and small worms. Life has been found as deep down as 6 kilometers below the surface. A lot of these discoveries have been found in mines and deep boreholes from extraction of metals and minerals. The structure is placed on the site, where the exhibition hall of base metals at the Stockholm exhibition would have been located. At the bottom of a shaft, a screen projects a film about findings in the deep biosphere, which stretch down 5 to 6 kilometers beneath your feet where you stand at the Woodland Cemetery. An assemblage of beings that creates a larger whole is called a holobiont. More than half of the cells and genomes in the human body belongs to our microbiome, that is bacteria, fungi, viruses and other. We have been intimately shaped and tuned by the fungi and microbes in our body. We couldn't digest our food without them. They regulate our immune system and influence mood and cognitive function. We wouldn't have developed or be alive without these complex relationships. But this is something invisible we rarely think about. The structure consists of 2 dressing rooms where you put on a white robe and walk into the chamber, where what is on our insides is made visible and projected on the outside, the robe, and on the walls. The closer we look at our bodies, the harder the idea of an individual, bounded self becomes. We are like walking ecosystems and are dependent on the ecosystem in our landscapes as well as the one that make up our bodies. The structure overlooks the landscape. Can time be measured in losses? The Stockholm exhibition ticks to the time of effective industrial society and of progress and modernization, while the woodland cemetery have another sort of timekeeping, the time of contemplation and of measured time and grief. Scientists estimate that a species is extinct every 20-minute counted low, at an ever-accelerating speed. The proposed structure is a clock to keep time of losses, and a chair to reflect in while looking out at the landscape. It is divided in 4 panels that are lit up one at a time for 5 minutes, beginning from the top erect position and then traveling down to be put in the ground. At the bottom position the chair also lights up. When the ground panel goes out it starts all over again. It is placed on the map where the advertising tower would have been with its clock of modern capitalist effectiveness, but nothing is advertised here except for the rate of extinction. On the actual site at the Woodland Cemetery, it is the place of outdoor ceremonies. At the Stockholm 1930 exhibition, the then exotic banana was advertised as a functional fruit, fast, nourishing, and practical, and was sold in kiosks and by walking vendors. If you consider the notion of human exceptionalism, it's a fun fact that a banana shares 44% of its genomes with a human. And man is said to be created in the image of God, which makes the monotheistic sky god a 44% relative of the banana too. The cultivation and export of the bananas were key drivers of colonial economic systems, and the production and export were controlled primarily by large multinational corporations based in Europe and North America, often to the detriment of the local populations and environments in which banana cultivation took place. The soil from which we draw our wealth is not from where we live. Free bananas are handed out at the banana stand, and the clock on the front shows banana time, the actual time in the country where the bananas were grown. Inside is a loudspeaker playing banana stories. The sunflower, as an example by many others, are home to a variety of symbiotic larvae. Algae, bacteria, fungi and small insects, and so on. These populations are called inquiline communities, meaning that they make their home from another home. The sunflower also feeds birds and is like a set dinner table where all these birds and organisms and insects etc. feed and mix with each other. The picnic flower is a simple structure where opposing narratives and beings meet and symbolically share bread together. Situated where the restaurant parody set would have been located when looking at the layered map, which happened to be the lily pond. The structure is a mix of seating and flower boxes, with animal feeders on the backside. In the middle there is bird feeders and a small bird bath. Chthonic ones are beings of the earth, gods and worms etc. The structure is more of an intervention, where the light shaft and the statue of the column hall in front of the chapel of the Holy Cross is covered by wooden sheets, encapsulated, shutting the sky and the light out. An adjoining large room is created by wood and fabrics, with seating, and the wall of the sealed-off atrium becomes a projection screen. A small entrance acts as gateway to the space. The first time in history we left Earth was when we invented the monotheistic sky gods. Before that, the gods and deities was of the earth. They often took the shape of animals, and where female, spiritual leaders were often female too. And man was subordinate to nature. Man was not yet above or outside so-called nature. The notion of a male sky god meant that we left Earth, turned to the sky and became exceptional. I see it as a place to study and re-evaluate old myths and practice. What parts of the old stories are valid today? For Donna Haraway, storytelling is an essential tool for survival. By creating meaningful narratives that connect us to the natural world and to one another, we can develop the collective understanding and sense of responsibility that is necessary to address environmental emergencies. New narratives can open new possibilities. Storytelling can change things. Just like the storytelling about the sky god profoundly shaped our society, it can be reshaped by storying otherwise. The structure is a garden with a hearth, to sit in and to tell stories for those inclined. It is placed where the wandering garden of the exhibition was located and is attached to the stage of the exhibition by a narrow pair of hedges that leads to and encompass the former stage area, where a fruit garden is planted. After the examination, a grand party was thrown by the ever-young Asplund twins, Piss and Bippen. The next day Lottie and Lenny went back to their beloved Wuppertal.